I'm in Mount Wuyi in southern China's Fujian Province. It's mid-spring, the climate pleasant and the scenery beautiful, as you can see. It's a special place for the Chinese, although many may not be aware of it. If you're going to understand today's China, it's a must-go. And for my next guest, a scholar from Austria specialized in ancient languages, this place sheds light on something he's been studying for decades. And we talked about food as well. Professor Fellner, welcome to The Point. This is a beautiful setting. We're in southern China's Fujian Province, north of Fujian Province, in this beautiful mountainside that's called Mount Wuyi, where we have this beautiful creek that's running behind us. This is your first ever visit to the region, I believe.
Yes.
What is your impression so far, besides the jet lag?
It's amazing. I can't really describe it. It just opens up your heart. For me, seeing bamboo tree forests for the first time, that's really amazing.
Yeah. So you are a scholar of linguistics, particularly Sanskrit, and but of course you also touch upon Chinese philosophy. Mm-hmm. Give us your impression of the kind of inspiration the ancient Chinese languages or linguistics or philosophers may have drawn from this kind of geographical environment.
Yes, I think, and that's exactly what you feel here when you walk through this forest and when you hear the river and when you see the mountains.
When you hear the bird chirps.
And hear the birds, especially now in the spring. You can relate to the imagery of ancient China. You can relate to the texts. You can relate to exactly what is one thing that I'm interested in, into harmony in nature, but also in human relations.
Well, that's something we take it for granted. But for the Western culture or Europeans, when they hear the word harmony, what first comes to their mind?
Yeah, I think for Western culture and Western thinking, harmony is usually associated with music, and there is this long tradition where basically it only means things in music, and it means basically kind of a unity, but a unity without difference, right? And I think the major difference to the Chinese understanding of harmony is that harmony is unity in diversity. So that different things, different ingredients, different relations come and integrate into a unity, and that they have different trajectories, different natures, which is not exclusive but contributes to this harmony. And I think there's a difference to the Western concept that's kind of more uniform.
But some people would say that in Western music, in symphony orchestra, for instance, you have different notes, you have different pitches, and when played in a certain way, they achieve harmony. Isn't that kind of unity based on diversity as well?
Yes, absolutely. But in Western thinking, the concept of harmony never evolved outside of musical theory, unfortunately, or not in a way as it did in China. I think there are some exceptions, like ancient Greek philosophy. You have Heraclitus, and then you have Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, who developed harmony much in a great way beyond music and made it a core aspect of their philosophy. And I think it's no coincidence that Leibniz was a great fan of China and a great fan of Chinese thinking, because his concept and the Chinese concept of harmony, they fit together very well. And I think from what he knew about China, he understood that there are similarities to his concept of harmony.
Yeah. So is Chinese culture an emphasis on diversity or conformity? Because many people's impression in the West is that the Chinese society is one of conformity.
Yeah, I think diversity. If you everyone who travels to China will immediately be amazed by the cultural diversity of different ethnicities, but also within the Han majority population, you have very, very different.
Would you give a
dialects.
concrete example or something you can point to at this moment?
I mean, if you're in South China and you go to North China, different languages. I know they're called dialects, but basically different Chinese languages.
You won't be able to understand them if you don't know them.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, very different food culture, but then still there is unity, right? And I think that's the important thing: the unity in diversity. And even very early on, Confucius said, harmony is not conformity. Harmony is diversity, and is characterized and has to be characterized by diversity.
So have you tried to find out why this harmony concept is so stressed, given the diversity? Is it because of the diversity that there is the stress on harmony?
I would say so, because the 5,000 years of Chinese culture, they right from the beginning, it was a mixture of different cultural traditions coming from different areas of what's now China, coming from different populations, and developing very dynamically over these 5,000 years, always with influence that was taken in from the outside, with influence that was projected to the outside. So I think that harmony is so central is exactly because Chinese culture is so diverse and has so many different sources from which it draws its power from.
In Chinese, the Chinese character that that embodies the harmony concept would be he, would it be, right? Mm-hmm. And this word, it consists of one part, how do you say, a root, a sprout of a plant or grain, he, and the other is a mouth, right? How would you understand how this word came about?
Yeah, I mean, the etymology of the character and the etymology of the word, there are different ways of interpreting it. But one, so there are two early interpretations, and the one is connected to music, and the other one is connected to food and also mixing and harmonizing of drinks in a way, which is nice. And we have one early commentary that I like very much, where it says that harmony is basically like making soup. You need to have different ingredients, and you have to look at the relations of the ingredients to make a very good soup. And I can very much relate to that, because I think one cultural similarity between China and Austria is kind of an obsession with good food.
Goulash.
Yeah, exactly.
The goulash. Okay. Yeah, in a way we do have some very similar dishes there. But then people say, okay, don't we have that in Europe too?
Yeah, I think exactly the problem is that the concept of harmony in this broad philosophical sense and in this understanding of unity in diversity, you basically only have in a dialectical tradition, which was not and still not is not the dominant tradition. So you basically have a line of tradition that goes from Heraclitus via the early dialecticians like Aristotle down to Leibniz or up to Leibniz, and then from Leibniz to Hegel, and from Hegel to Marx, and
hence
so on.
it came to China, hence it found the soil.
And exactly, and I think the reintegration of the concept of harmony now comes from two directions: from traditional Chinese harmony in this combination of Marxist dialectics. Yeah.
So basically, are you saying, because people hear so much something with Chinese characteristics, you know, democracy with Chinese characteristics, modernization with Chinese characteristics, is that a very key element to understand when you try to understand what exactly Chinese characteristics is?
Yes, I think it is. So harmony is a core tenet. But I would go even further. So harmony is not only a concept that would help the West to understand China better, so the Chinese concept of harmony, but I think it would also be a concept that we in Europe could take over from China, or at least integrate it in our cultural tradition much stronger. In going back to our own tradition of harmony that I mentioned, namely the Leibniz and dialectical philosophy.
Why do you say that?
Harmony. Because I think what we are experiencing now in these globally difficult times is that Europe and the West generally is basically going against diversity. Against diversity concerning economy, against cultural diversity. We have the rise of racism and nationalism in very ugly guises again. So I think this harmony as unity in diversity would be something that where we can learn from China, actually.
I would understand, though, there are fear that, for instance, because let's say the Chinese culture or Chinese products are so powerful, they're so competitive that if people embrace diversity, maybe it means that they fear it may mean that they're taken over, you know, that their place in society, their importance may be replaced by a new concept, so they lost who they are. Have you ever thought about that? What is your answer?
Yeah, I think we have nothing to fear from China. We have to gain a lot by maintaining and advancing people-to-people relationships with China. And I think if we look now, especially in like advanced technology, China is leading. And what is Europe doing? Europe is not trying to cooperate with China on this, but quite the opposite. But cooperation is vital, because these key technologies that China is developing are key technologies that will help us prevent further deterioration of climate change, for example. So I think Europe has nothing to fear, but a lot to gain.
Let's come back to the philosophical roots of the Chinese culture. So we stress harmony, I like that, and we stress peace. But people also say, look, there are also wars in China. So how do you explain that? How does the Chinese concept of harmony and peace also reflect in their belief in sovereignty, for instance, in the importance and necessity of military power?
Well, I think if we look at Chinese history, China always tried to be integrative, even in phases of expansion.
Integrative.
Integrative, yeah, and inclusive.
Okay.
So basically, there was always a culture of including and integrating parts that were not China before, right? So I don't see. On the contrary, I see that the harmony concept basically always laid the foundation for an inclusive and peaceful development, regardless of phases where it was a little bit different. Because China was never an imperialistic power and was never a colonial power in any way. What it was, it had a great soft power, and I think it still does. And I think that harmony is actually a part where this soft power is successful, and where Chinese culture moved beyond core regions of China, actually.
It's very interesting. You say China has a great soft power, but the narrative out there is often that America has a great soft power and China is not doing very well in its soft power. Why do you believe the other way?
Yeah, if you really look closely, and I studied and lived in the US for quite a while, of course, US has a certain cultural power, there's no doubt. But most of the power that the US generates comes from now very unfair financial and economic practices. To say that China does not have soft power and the US has is painting it a bit wrong because the power of the US is one of financial and economic institutions backed by an army that has basically barracks in more than 100 countries. So.
But we do have this impression that China has not done too well in telling its story or in presenting itself. And with the new technology, do you think that, or with the introduction of the Western cultures, European cultures to China since 150 years, do you think the Chinese identity has been diluted, or has it strengthened? Has it diversified?
I don't think that it has been diluted. I think it has been diversified. I think one great thing, and that's part of this integrational power that China has, is to sinicize things and to bring things in from the outside, but make them Chinese. Marxism is a case in point. But
bring it into our soup.
Exactly, to bring it in your soup. But also before Buddhism would be a case in point. And also we could also talk about other more technological things that came to China and were sinicized and advanced in a way. Yeah. So I would not see a dilution, but I see integration and sinicization, and this is good because on the other hand, China has and exerts influence in the world. Culturally, economically, and more politically, and I think this is good because the rise of the new China means the end of 500 years dominance of Western powers, and that's a very good thing.
Some people would say you're anti-West. Are you? What is your evaluation of Western civilization?
Well, Western civilization has great achievements, but the last 500 years, the main political characteristic was imperialism and colonialism. And the end of this period started with the Russian Revolution, and now with China as the first major global power, non-Western global power. We're heading towards the end of this 500-year period of imperialism and colonialism, and I think that's a very, very good development.
In the end, what do you think is a perfect state of the world? Perfect picture of the world, of different civilizations?
Yeah, I would here directly come back to harmony, namely unity in diversity. I think there is one shared humankind, and we have one shared future ahead of us. And that means that we have to integrate different perspectives to form one perspective of humanity. And I think this will only work if we talk on a par or the same level, and that there are no powers that can dictate other countries how they should live, how they should do their economy, what they should think. I think this diversity, this unity in diversity, that is a nice future for humanity, and I think China plays a very important role towards this path.
Thank you so much, Hannes Fellner, Professor of the University of Vienna of the Department of Linguistics.
Thank you very much. Thanks.